A good example comes from a production that I know that's been going on in Finland, a very beautiful production. And if you see, it should say number one, a preschool story where the characters resolve conflict through laughter. That is the idea. That's the idea that somebody has had. But if you work it backwards and you say to yourself, well, what does that idea, what does it come from? Click again, and let's have number two, which should say, for kids who are starting to interact with other kids to understand that you shouldn't fight fire with fire. So that's going back to the need. I'm hoping that I can't hear. And we get to the concept, which is number three, saying an app for the tablet for those kids who are just starting to socialize, which uses tablet's touch interface to tickle characters in order to resolve conflicts, thereby progress within the game. And this is a production called Gigglebug, which is very successful up in Finland. And basically that is what I see as the breakdown of that journey from idea back to need and then forward to concept. Okay, so let's just move forward onto slide 21 and click one more time. And this is the zone that I'm interested in. I'm interested in the in-between bit, the journey from need to concept. Let's click forward now and get through to slide 22. So the question is, what's going on in this in-between bit? Now, I can only talk from a European point of view. I don't really know much. I'm not an expert in North America or South America, but certainly from a Northern European standpoint, where we have a lot of funding that supports production. If you look on page 22, the first bullet point, click on that, and it's engage with audience or satisfy financiers. And what I mean by that is, what are we doing in this process, this journey from need to concept? When we design things, are we really trying to design things for audiences, or are we trying to design things for financiers or funders? Click again for the second bullet point. When to pop the cork? When do we get excited? When do we pull out the champagne and drink? Is it when we've got the thing financed, or is it when our audiences have started engaging it? Third bullet point. Click, please. Who is this for? Is this for ourselves? Are we purely making this thing for ourselves, or are we making it for an audience? Is it just simply a piece of art that we believe is for our own needs, or is it for our audience's needs? If you click again to the fourth part on that slide, then it says, because that's what traditional media is unbelievably good at, and that's completely fine, because that's what we've been doing for years, and I don't have a problem with that at all. But if we go to slide 23, we ask ourselves, why are we doing more than just traditional media? First bullet point. Is it because we're putting our stuff out into multiple platforms, medias, and channels? Sorry, putting our stuff out into multiple platforms and channels raises a series of questions. And those questions can be, bullet point one, are we doing it simply to increase reach or access? It's like spread betting on the horses. Are we doing it because we just simply want to gain control? Bullet point number two. So please click. And we want to bypass the gatekeepers, the traditional gatekeepers that have prevented people like, I've forgotten his name now, the chap who did House of Cards that Alison mentioned, the guy Kevin Spacey. Did he want to go down a different route because he wanted to bypass those gatekeepers? Or, question mark, click, and click again, onto the fourth bullet point. Is it because we need a critical mass? Click again, fourth bullet point. Is it because we want to engage? We want to move from passive to active? Click again. Is it because we want to have a conversation? Click again. Is it because we want to create dependencies within our output? Click again. Is it because we want to mobilize action? Okay, let's move on to slide 24. If this is the case, if we answer yes to those questions, then we need to be strategic in our development. It was mentioned earlier in both talks earlier about using strategy. And that strategy has to be part of the journey from idea to concept and not just after it. Okay, let's click on to slide 25. So you recognize this, this model from before. If we click again one time, click again, another time, and click a last time, you can see hopefully the word strategy comes up in between need and concept. So this is what we have to do. One of the essential parts of the journey from need to concept is the need for strategy. Click again, and we're now on slide 27. So strategy within the design process helps us go from idea to a concept so as to fit the way audiences are trying to engage with our offerings. Okay, click again onto slide 28. Where can we see a lack of strategy? Okay, well, often what I find is whenever I look at concepts if I'm calling to work with a production team or a workshop or a conference or something, and I'm working with production teams, click again on the first bullet point. What a lot of concept descriptions are, they're based on hope. Click again, second bullet point with a picture of Kevin Costner. And what I call this Field of Dreams syndrome. I don't know if you've seen the film, not particularly good, I don't think, but anyway. And there's this quote in it which says, if you build it, they will come. And this is often the hope of production companies, that if you simply build the thing, then audiences will come and find you because it's on the internet, so they must do. And we have to move away from this. Click again onto slide 29. What we have to do is we have to think about distribution and access, and they must be very much part of the concept design. Click again, and you get the first bullet point. So we shouldn't just stop at the platform. We shouldn't just explain what platform it's on and not explain any context. We should always be trying to explain context. Click again to the second bullet point. Because the reason is we have to explain context is because there's so much more you could do with an iPad than you could with a TV. When people used to watch TVs or used to go to a cinema to watch a film, you didn't really have to explain what they were doing because we tended to understand what they were doing. We knew that they were sitting on a sofa and watching the TV. Okay, there are various different ways you could do it. You could be in your kitchen watching it, and that might bring on a slightly different experience. But with an iPad, there's a billion different things we could be doing with an iPad. To simply say that we are producing something for the iPad is just too limited. But if you click again, then hopefully you get a wait. Oh no! Oh no! Am I back? Am I live? Oh good. Oh great! I can hear the audience. Ah, great. Okay. Ah, great. You are listening. Right. So click. Then so you've got consider usage. Important to consider the way by which something's being used. And the fourth bullet point on slide 29 is to consider the user. So if we now go to slide 30, I'm getting carried away there, so excited, I was just talking to myself and the neighbours. So on slide 30, we've got an example. Click one time and you should see the first example should come up, which says, the project will publish to smartphone and tablet. This is what I see all the time when I'm seeing projects that are putting themselves towards commissioners for financing or funding or for acceptance. And to me, that's not good enough. I think it could be better if you click one more time. Okay, possibly better if, click again. Here's an example. It's quite heavy, but I'll read it to you anyway. Navigating the seemingly endless curated archive of high-resolution images will exploit multi-touch gestures on the tablet rather than traditional forms of keyboard navigation. Now, if somebody writes like that, and I'm sure there's 100 ways in which you could write it better, what they're showing is they're showing actually how the content will actually exploit certain features and functions of the platform, rather than just simply saying that it will use the platform. Click again, and I've written another heavy example. I'll read it out. The project will give people on the move a short injection of high-octane entertainment. For example, at the bus stop, on the way home into town, or whilst waiting for a late friend, and therefore designed for smartphone and mini tablets. Again, what we're doing is we're considering context of use. Alison talked about it earlier. It's so important that we consider this when we are designing our concepts. So let's click onto slide 31. Now, what I'm suggesting is no huge change. Click again for the first bullet point. This is evolution, it's not revolution. Second bullet point, click please. So what we have to do is we have to just define a strategy. We have to know why we're using these particular platforms, these particular medias, these particular channels. Click again for the third bullet point. We have to actively shape your concept design rather than simply following it. So we don't work out about access and distribution after we've developed our concept, we do it as part of it. Click again onto slide 32. Nice picture, I hope, upside down picture. We just have to think about a change in perspective, and I'll give you an example. Click onto slide 33. When in Norway. I was in Norway beginning of this year, and something really interesting happened. Well, I thought it was interesting. We had about 30 people in a room, and we had to go around that room and we had to describe who we were and what we did. Okay? Click again for the first bullet point. And what I found was that there were only really 2 people in that room that we actually found interesting. Everybody else, we didn't really tune into what they did. And the reason why we found those 2 people interesting was because those 2 people didn't talk about themselves. They basically said what they could do in relation for other people. They said, my job is to help you get from A to B. So what they did was, click again so you see the second bullet point, is they shift the interest back onto us. Click again, third bullet point. They contextualized their usefulness. They basically told you how they were useful for you. So suddenly they became interesting to us. Click the last bullet point, the fourth one. It's exactly what I tried doing at the beginning of this talk by basically saying, I help people to get from idea to concept. And this is what the way of the shift of thinking, I think, is about being strategic. And I think this is the way that we have to think about when we develop concepts. So let's jump onto slide 34 and click one more time. So rather than simply pushing out onto platforms, we have to ask, how best would my target group engage with my offering? And then we can then start thinking about which platforms would be the most relevant that we should use in order to be able to engage with our target group. Click again onto slide 35. We have to start considering somebody other than ourselves. So what we need, click one more time, is that we need insight. And click one more time. So, because I believe that strategy comes from insight. That's just not my belief. I mean, you ask any marketeer or hopefully advertiser will probably say the same. Somebody in communications, PR, they would all say the same. That strategy comes from insight. So click onto slide 36. Here's the model again. It's going to get more complex. Click one more time. Arrow disappears. Click one more time. Nothing happens. Click one more time. And hopefully insight appears. So what we've got is the notion that idea, we go back to need. From need, we go to insight. Insight delivers strategy. Strategy delivers a concept. And I will go into a little bit more detail as to how I do this. And just click one more time and you should hopefully see context just to make the whole picture. Because the context is the setting in which this whole thing is happening. It's the setting in where the need is, and it's the setting in where we are going to place our concept. So it's like an enormous kind of umbrella that's sitting around the whole of our work. Click one more time. We're still on slide 38 now. Click one more time. I will go through an example here. So here, hopefully, it should say on the screen here, an awareness campaign around World War I using news stories from the time for kids. That could be an idea. You can just imagine somebody going out for a Sunday afternoon and suddenly having this idea and thinking, right, you know what I want to produce is I want to produce an awareness campaign around World War I using news stories from the time for kids. Click one more time. We go back to need. We say to ourselves, well, why do we need this? Well, we realize that actually it's really important for children to see how easily wars can arise from instability. So there's our need. Click one more time and we ask ourselves, well, what is the context? What is the context of this? Well, there's lots of different contexts. There could be the context of the rise of fascism within Europe. or at least the rise of right-wing opinions in Europe. But also next year will be the 100 years anniversary of World War I. So hopefully on the screen now, you've got the idea, you've got the need, and you've got the 100 years anniversary of World War I. Oh, you've jumped. Now, if you click one more time, you've got insight. You've already got it. Don't click. I can see it on the streaming. So what we've got here is this is the insight. You can go out there and you can find stuff out. Now, I made this up. But for example, you might go out into schools around Europe and you discover that kids start history around the age of 10. 10-year-olds don't self-select topics of history at school.
Una recomendación, si quieren seguir igualmente las actividades de Colombia 3.0, les recomiendo entrar al blog, que es blog.colombia3.0 en letras.co. Lo mismo pueden estar viendo el streaming y más información en la misma página de Colombia 3.0. Paul.
Okay, I'm on now, am I? Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Well, what a strange thing to be doing. I hope that I'm not that brilliant at doing this. Otherwise, I'm never going to get invited to another city ever again, and I'll just end up doing everything through Skype. Throughout the presentation, you'll hear me continually saying, click forward. So I apologize for that, but that's just the way it goes. And I'm just very grateful that you have managed to get me in via this digital means. So if you want to put up the first slide, I do actually I'm seeing the conference here streamed to my sitting room, but I think I'm slightly delayed, so I'll just have to get used to it. So I'm praying now that you've got slide 2 up, and you can see in the bottom left or the bottom right corner the number 2. My name is Paul Tyler. I'm from Copenhagen. I've done various different things. I've worked in theatre for 4 years. I worked at the BBC for 12 years. I worked in 6 years for content and format development, and I spent a couple of years teaching as well. And the whole of my talk, I hope, is going to focus on some of the keywords that I heard in Jeff and Alison's talks. Some of the keywords which were design, strategy, and context, and also something that Alison talked about, which is about audience behaviours. So I'm hoping you got the first slide up, which is slide number 2. And if you click forward now and go through to slide number 3, you will see exactly why I was late, or not late. You'll see exactly why I'm not here, because you should hopefully see Copenhagen Airport. Click forward, slide 4. I'm praying that you're seeing these PowerPoint slides now. And if you click forward to slide 5, you will see the chaos that was Copenhagen Airport yesterday when they decided to go on strike. Yes, we have strikes in Scandinavia as well, and prevented me getting my flights to France and then on to lovely Bogota. Okay, so let's go to slide 6. This is what I do on slide 6. I help people to get from idea to concept, and I hope that what I'm going to be doing now for the next 40 minutes or maybe less is to give you some sort of idea as to how I do that. Let's go to slide 7, please. I believe several things. Click. I believe not to think blue skies. I don't like the term blue skies. I don't think it really helps us. I like to work within constraints. We should be on page 7 now, I hope, and we've already got the first line up. Click again for the second line. And I believe that it's important that if we want to be engaging and relevant and accessible, we have to consider a lot more stuff. And I think that from the talks you've heard already from Jeff and from Alison, you'll understand there's a lot more stuff that we need to be considering. Click again onto the third bullet point. I think it's really important that before you construct things, you should deconstruct things and you should break things down. And if you go on to the fourth bullet point, I think that questioning is probably the most creative thing that you can do. And I have only just come to that conclusion later on in my life. It's not something that I used to think about when I was younger, but I think questioning is the most creative thing we can do. Click forward to slide number 8, please, and click once, and you will get a sense of, oh, I hope that's not a fire alarm, is it? You'll get a sense of what the different terms that we hear all the time about this different world that we're in. Okay, so the conference is called transmedia, but people talk about interactive media, digital media, convergence media, multimedia, new media, cross-media, cross-platform. I hope you've got the slide up. So you should have seen slide 8 now, with all its various different medias. And you know what? I don't care. It's easy for me to say that. I'm not in the same room with the rest of you, but I just don't care anymore. All I care about is how can I help people within this process in order to produce things in lots of different ways. That's all I care about. So next slide, please, slide 9. This is where it's going to get really complex, and I feel sorry for anybody who's seeing this streamed around South America because it's probably too small to be seen, but let's see if it works. So Jeff and Alison both talked about the core story, and they talked about the beating heart at the center of everything we do. And this is what's at the heart of what I do. It's about the need. And I think that need is about exploring a theme. And this is what we have to identify. Now, I'll get on in a second into how I work through the creative process, but I just want to give you a sense of how I see the landscape. So if we go back to the slide and stay on slide 9, because it's going to get quite complex. Good luck, we're going to go in now. So I'm hoping slide 9 is up. Can you click forward, please? And what you should see on the left of your screen is the 3 areas: book, film, and TV. Now, I've just chosen 3 typical media platforms that we all know about. And what I refer to them I refer to them as passive audience engagement. And what I mean by that is that it is possible to produce stories on these various different platforms, books, films, and TV, and to be unbelievably engaging. But I believe ultimately it's about passive engagement. I think it's about the engagement that doesn't require anything more of the audience than to get emotionally involved. And that's worked brilliantly for years, and it's going to continue working brilliantly for years. And the thing is that people have done in the past, and they will continue to combine these things. So it may well be that somebody produces a book, and then somebody adapts it, and it becomes a film. Okay? Now, if we then click forward, what I would argue is that a commissioner or somebody financing or funding this would probably qualify whether or not the need itself is interesting or is relevant. Yeah, so basically that's how it's worked up till now. We have people getting back to a need, exploring a theme, the commissioner, the financer, the funder, whatever, the interested party basically saying, do I find this need interesting and do I find it relevant to the audience? And then somebody producing a book, a film, a TV, and sometimes combining them to tell stories. If we click forward now, we then see the way by which we measure the success of realizing that story on those different platforms. So it's about how well we realize it on the platform. It could be about story consistency across platforms, which is very much what Jeff and Alison were talking about, this sense of kind of consistency between them. I think Jeff talked about fractures and how important it is to ensure that we don't create cracks within our cross-platform rollout. And what we also might want to check is that there's good strategy for distribution. Now, if we click forward again, we should now see, hopefully on the bottom right of your screen, I don't know if there's right or left for you, but on the bottom right of your screen, you will see what I call active audience engagement. And active audience engagement is when we add a say, a digital or an interactive component where somehow the audience gets involved. They do something more than simply sitting back and consuming it and getting.
Calling Paul Tyler.
Right. Back again. I hope I'm back. Am I back? Am I back? Let me know if I'm back or not. Am I back? Okay, great. So,
Tenemos un problema con la conexión, en 2 minutos la restablecemos. ¿Qué diapositiva habíamos? Se hizo la 13. Ya, revise que tengas internet de nuevo. Andrés, cierra el Skype mientras cuadran ya que decía. Ya, listo, vuelve de nuevo, vuelve de nuevo. Pero si hay internet, enciende que sea el Skype. ¿Tienes internet? ¿Lo dice que tengas internet? ¿Lo dice que tenga internet? ¿Todo está en orden? Si tiene internet, pero es el Skype el que... Conectados, muy bien. Ya casi vamos al aire. Calling Paul Tyler. Vamos a mandarlo ya. ¿Listos?
Calling Paul Tyler.
hola. Okay, can you hear me?
Hello, we're back again.
Am I live or?
1 second. Okay, we're back, Paul. We can continue from slide number 13.
Hello. Am I live?
Okay, we're hearing you.
Okay. And I'm live, yes? Okay, great. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm quite used to this. I had a 4-year long distance relationship. So this is nothing in comparison. Okay, so I hope that you're still with me, and I hope it was a critical slide to break down in. But okay, so basically, if we could just click forward, one click, and then hopefully it should come up at the bottom, talking about the way by which we recognize the value in having this active audience engagement. And it's exactly the same as the stuff on the left, but the added bit is that the interactivity enhances the story or the experience. Let's just move forward and click again. One more click, and there should be hopefully something that comes up in the top right hand.
You have an incoming call from.
Hello, back again. Am I live? Oh, great. Okay, so, oh my God, good luck, everybody. Nearly lunch, I'm sure. Okay, so, you can see at the top right there, what we have is dependent active audience engagement, where there is a dependency within the system. That's where you are creating a system whereby you need some of the audience, or maybe all of the audience, to get involved. Okay, I mean, a good example would be X Factor or Pop Idol, where they actively need the audience to click on their mobile phones in order to say which contestant they actually like. So what I'm trying to do with this model here is I'm just trying to break down what people seem to be doing, because a lot of people talk about transmedia and the various different courses and workshops that I do when I'm working directly with people. They refer to transmedia, but in some ways I don't care if it's transmedia or if it's not. What I care about is trying to understand what it is that people are trying to do. So let's now move. Oh, sorry, click forward again, and hopefully you'll see on page 16 at the top, you can see the thing that we measured this by is exactly the same as the left and exactly the same as the bottom, but the last one is the dependency enhances the story. The sense that there is a dependency within the system, that is the thing that enhances it. Okay, so let's now move to slide number 17, okay? So my argument is that irrespective of whether or not you are doing one of those 3 different things, the passive engagement or the active engagement, dependent or independent, it doesn't matter, but irrespective of which you're doing, you are still able to break down the journey from idea to concept. And what I want to do is I want to try and talk to you about the difference between idea and concept. So let's go to slide 18. Slide 18 says the difference between idea and concept, and I'm going to go through them. Click once, first bullet point. I believe that an idea is essentially a hypothesis. It's like saying, I think it would be really cool if we did X. It's the thing you think about when you're in the bath or when you're in the shower or when you've gone for a walk. Click, second bullet point. And that idea has to have come from somewhere. It's come from somewhere. And what's interesting now, okay, back live again. Oh my God, you are a brave audience. I hope there's still people left in the room. Okay, so we should have 3 bullet points up there at the moment. And what I'm talking about is the fact that when we have ideas, that they point back to needs. Click again and go to the 4th bullet point. And this points out the fact that this need that it's pointing back to, it might be your own need, it might be somebody else's. The fifth bullet point is that that need wants to be fulfilled. That's why we have writers like Jeff and Alison who come along and they fulfill those needs by coming up with those stories. Okay, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth bullet point is that we have the desire to resolve or explore it. And the way we do that is we develop a concept. A concept, another word, it could be, I suppose, as a format. Okay, let's go to slide 19. And let's see if this works. Click once and we should see the word idea. And what I say is that when you have an idea, as I said, you need to work backwards. Click one more time. Okay, and we go back to need. Okay, and if you click one more time, you will see, therefore, there's a journey that we have to go on from need to concept. So you should now have up on your screen idea, need, and concept. Click again, and I'll give you an example.